If you imagine a ruler, you likely picture a central figure issuing direct commands to their subordinates. But apply that logic to a system containing tens of thousands or hundreds of millions of autonomous actors. Direct, continuous micromanagement collapses under its own weight. Take the honeybee colony. We call the central reproductive female a queen, which implies a monarch, but she issues no executive orders. Foragers, nurses, and guards coordinate their own labor through local chemical signals and behavioral thresholds. The queen is not a commander. She is a high-leverage biological control variable inside a distributed superorganism. True governance over a complex adaptive system does not require directing individual agents. It requires engineering the boundary conditions in which those agents operate. Sovereignty at this scale relies on the architectural authority to define the state space limits of a self-organizing population. We can call this arrangement apiary sovereignty. Instead of managing behavior, the controller manages the environmental variables, the available space, resource flows, and reproductive conditions that indirectly steer autonomous action. Ancient civilizations recognized this biological systems engineering. Look at the formal titulary of the Egyptian pharaoh, he of the sedge and the bee. The bee was integrated directly into the written representation of the state, symbolizing concentrated sovereign power orchestrated above a highly differentiated agricultural society. This 19th century print, The British Beehive, maps the colony onto human civic organization. From foundational trades up to the monarch, each cell represents specialized labor within a strictly compartmentalized boundary. It proved a society could achieve structural coordination without continuous individual command. The insect colony remains civilization's most durable political metaphor, because it proved that decentralized local intelligence is an asset to higher-order governance, not an enemy to be suppressed. Managing a biological superorganism presents a massive computational problem. A human operator cannot manually direct the flight path of 50,000 foraging bees. The decisive architectural breakthrough in apiculture was the invention of the movable frame hive. By engineering the geometry of the box, humans standardized a biological environment into an interoperable system. This modularity creates administrative legibility. Brood chambers and honey stores can be separated, inspected, and recombined without destroying the whole organism. What becomes legible also becomes actionable. The beekeeper manages the system by manipulating specific leverage points. They alter the available hive volume, apply targeted disease treatments, and introduce new queens to modify the system's reproductive state. Inside that architecture, the colony's internal intelligence remains completely intact. The bees continue to perform all the detailed computation, thermoregulation, and resource optimization themselves. Scalable management is achieved strictly by mastering the enclosure. The manager controls the substrate. The population supplies the cognitive labor. Modern states face the exact same structural problem. A central authority cannot physically command hundreds of millions of citizens directly. The wooden box is replaced by the digital data ecosystem. This creates an institutional control plane. Governance operates not on physical human bodies, but on machine-readable representations, partial digital twins constructed from tax records, identity profiles, and consumer scores. Institutions achieve massive scale by passing these representations back and forth. A bank, a state agency, and a digital platform exchange authenticated state changes, completely bypassing the human subject in the center. This superorganism relies on strict interoperability standards, like the NIST Identity Federation protocols. One institutional node consumes the validated output of another, eliminating the need to replicate the verification work. Through these data flows, institutions steer autonomy using cybernetic actuators. They introduce administrative friction, apply personalized pricing, and engineer informational salience. They alter the energetic cost of making specific choices, rather than relying on crude prohibition. In a mature administrative state, the individual remains biologically autonomous, yet their actionable reality is continuously constructed and constrained by unseen institutional handoffs occurring in the background. Modern administration is moving toward the logic of software-defined networking, replacing static bureaucracy with continuous coordination. We can understand this through the architecture of modern computing networks, which strictly separate the data plane from the control plane. The data plane is where human action and packet forwarding occur. The control plane is where policy, metrics, and routing abstractions are determined. Orchestration systems, like Kubernetes, operate by continuously comparing the actual distributed reality on the ground against a declared desired state. When a variance is detected, the control plane issues an adjustment via an API, forcing the chaotic activity back within defined geometric boundaries. Historical administration relied on static forms, applications, and episodic events. The new cybernetic model replaces that with continuous, real-time algorithmic state reconciliation. This architecture allows for massive local turbulence. Citizens can argue, innovate, and move freely, provided the overarching infrastructural metrics remain within accepted parameters. In this model, governance functions as the homeostatic maintenance of the environment, operating continuously rather than episodically. The representational layer is now evolving again. We are shifting from static digital twins toward world models, architectures that learn how environments change under the pressure of action. This enables counterfactual rehearsal. Institutions simulate hypothetical policy interventions on computational populations, selecting optimal outcomes before altering physical reality. Destination Earth applies this at a planetary scale, stacking atmospheric, oceanic, and urban data layers. Constraints propagate downward, translating macro objectives into specific algorithmic street-level actuators. What emerges is a metabolic information superorganism. It observes its own global activity, measures its prediction errors, and dynamically modifies its future behavior in response. Strategic power now accrues to entities capable of rehearsing the future and institutionalizing the results. We are rapidly approaching the twin-to-twin society. Here, personal AI agents negotiate directly with institutional agents to secure resources, coordinate scheduling, and verify access. The engineering protocols are already being drafted. Organizations are defining cryptographic machine citizenship, delegation chains, and agent-to-agent interoperability. In this architecture, the human becomes negative space. Your actionable options, your navigation routes, and your financial limits are negotiated by computational proxies long before reaching your conscious perception. This establishes the ultimate constitutional battleground, model space sovereignty. The powers of this sovereignty are entirely abstract. They are the authority to define data schemas, to control identity binding, and dictate update authority over your digital twin. The ultimate achievement of cybernetic order turns out to be identical to the apiary. It preserves maximum local intelligence and autonomy for the population, while rendering the architectural enclosure completely invisible.